Russia is the largest country in the world by land area. I am sure you all have heard about Russia's low population density. It is indeed very low, standing at 9 people per kilometer square. For comparison, I would like to quote the population densities of UK, which is 281 people per kilometer square, USA is 36 people per square kilometer, and EU has an average of 117 people per square kilometer. Russia is in the midst of a demographic crisis, which it has been unable to control. The small family sizes are indicative of Russia's stagnant birth rates and slumping population, made more acute by the pressures of the pandemic. President Vladimir Putin has said a shrinking Russia haunts him. So he has made reversing Russia's population contraction a national priority, attempting to incentivize Russians to have bigger families by 2024. Nowadays, Russia is making the buzz due to its enormous military buildup at the Ukrainian border. A war is very much likely. The US president has even said that the war is inevitable until Russia itself wants to come to the table. Here in this video we will discuss the demographic of Russia, and how they are a challenge for Moscow's hegemony. Russia is no naive in geopolitical affairs. They have played the role of a dominant power in most world affairs, and Russian interference is pretty much evident in almost all major international adventures, be it the Syrian civil war, or the Libyan fallout. As Russia has spent much of early 2022 amassing troops on its Ukrainian border, an important issue escaped the eyes unnoticed. While Russian President Vladimir Putin threatened Ukraine, Russia suffered its largest natural population decline since World War II, losing 997,000 people in the year-long period between October 2020 and September 2021. Although coronavirus casualties in Russia were severe, and probably highly underreported, this wasn't a one-time anomaly. Instead, it was the opening shot of a longer-term trend that will leave policymakers scratching their heads at Kremlin. Russia is about to enter a prolonged and painful period of demographic decline at home, complicating its ambitions abroad. The roots of this demographic decline rest in the 1990s and the chaos wrought by Russia's post-Soviet transition from a centrally planned economy to a capitalist, market-based economy. The transition was characterized by economic turmoil, mass unemployment, and alcoholism, all of which combined to briefly give Russia one of the world's lowest male life expectancies and population densities. The most lasting impact, however, was the simultaneous decline in birth rates. From 1993 to 2007, the fertility rate of women in Russia fell below 1.5, far below the 2.1 replacement rate needed to avoid a disastrous decline in population. The effects of this dramatic and prolonged collapse in birth rates are now becoming apparent. A brief glance at Russia's population pyramid illustrates this knock-on effect. There are around 12.5 million Russians between the ages of 30 and 34 who were born around or just before the collapse of the Soviet Union. But there are around 6.5 million people between the ages of 20 and 24 who were born during the chaos of the late 1990s. This smaller base of people able to bear children means the birth rate is almost destined to decline. And that is exactly what has happened. After a brief period of natural population growth in the 2010s, Russia's population once again began to contract in 2019. It will continue to do so in the foreseeable future. This bleak demographic forecast became even direr with the arrival of COVID-19. The Kremlin's initial dismissal of COVID-19 appears to have backfired on its population, resulting in a vaccination rate that ranks as one of the lowest in the developed world. Low vaccination uptake, coupled with a government's weak approach to COVID-19 and weak health care system, have contributed to one of the world's highest COVID-19 fatality rates. Russia's government counts around 300,000 deaths, but a more reliable estimate from The Economist puts the figure at 1 million, giving Russia the dubious distinction of having more COVID-19 deaths per capita than any other country except Bulgaria. Russia's recent population decline predates COVID-19, but the pandemic has definitely exacerbated it. It is possible that immigration will make this demographic outlook less dismal. But here another problem starts. Russia is not that attractive for most immigrant source countries. India, for example, has a large diaspora and provides immigrants to a lot of countries, but Russia is quite not their taste. Though India has robust relations with Russia, Indians are more attracted to Western countries. Most Indians want to work at IT companies, or in the banking and finance industry. This is where Russia lacks. They are not particularly associated with any of these fields, unlike the USA or UK. Russia also lacks in providing the same standard of living as Canada, Australia, or other developed West European countries. However, they do attract immigrants from some countries. Russia has long relied on immigration from ex-Soviet republics to compensate for natural population loss at home, and in recent years, it has stepped up its efforts by encouraging ethnic Russians everywhere, from Ukraine to Uruguay, to immigrate. But even here, there is a limited future upside. COVID-19 has kept many would-be migrants grounded at home. Russia's stagnant economy has sent others searching for economic opportunities elsewhere. And most simply, many of the people likeliest to immigrate already have. Boosting immigration could mitigate Russia's demographic decline, but it cannot stop it. This demographic reality is perhaps the greatest limiting factor for Putin's ambitions in Ukraine for two reasons. Any invasion of Ukraine would take a serious cost in the life of Russian ethnicity, with Ukrainians prepared and motivated to resist Russian occupation in a way they were not when Russia annexed Crimea in 2014. Ukrainian defense minister has made this explicit, saying while Ukraine would no doubt suffer in the event of war, it would also not mourn alone. And most Russian casualties would be soldiers in their 20s, members of the same small generation born during the 1990s whom Russia cannot afford to sacrifice. The second limiting factor relates to the West's response to any Russian move on Ukraine. Scholars debate the utility of sanctions in changing behavior, but their economic impact has been clear. Russia's economy is still smaller than it was in 2014. And the West still has a lot more economic pain to inflict, from freezing Russia out of SWIFT, the system through which international banks make transfers, to canceling Nord Stream 2, the pipeline delivering natural gas from Russia to Germany. These sanctions would trigger capital outflows and economic turmoil to an extent not seen. Rather than being purely a limiting factor, it's possible to argue Russia's weak demographic hand has made it even more dangerous. After all, Russia's need for more people is no doubt a motivating consideration for its current aggressive posture toward Ukraine, and the Russian president has said the thought of a depopulated Russia haunts him the most. There might be a delusion in Kremlin's mind that Ukrainians would sign up to be good Russians. But Russia's demography and the long shadow of the 1990s severely inhibit what the Kremlin can do now. Russia's future ambitions are still weighed down by its recent past. It is possible that Russia may invade Ukraine to fulfill its plan of reviving the Soviet Union and integrating Ukrainians into Russian society. Or something else could also take place, like Russia coming to the negotiation table to sign up for economic gains. It would be interesting to see Moscow's approach in near future. I hope that you all enjoyed this video on the ambitions of Russia, and their demography limiting the viability of their aspirations. Do leave a like and comment down your thoughts about Russia. Subscribe to stay updated for future content. Till then, goodbye.